Good evening. This is Hannah Klein. Welcome to Hannah Klein's Time. It has been almost not almost 10 days since I had an interview with ICC's Vice President, Reverend Barry Dennison. Um, I I was arranging time before Christmas, but I thought that he would be busy during Christmas, so I just chose some time after. But I felt that we had some sound problems, but it was a very meaningful conversation for me. Today it's kind of cold. The place I live is not the coldest part of Japan, but the area called Ishikawa Prefecture is very cold, and it is totally covered in snow. Ishikawa was hit by an earthquake last year, and the areas were just totally devastated, and it hasn't recovered at all. There are people living there, of course, and also the culture of Japan is something to be proud of about Ishikawa Prefecture, but a lot of craftsmen lost their workplaces. That's very sad, but I hope they get over tonight. It's very bad there, and yeah, it's very bad. The reason why I could not podcast until today was not because I did not feel like it, or I around usually around around the end of the year, like before probably the Japanese clinics and hospitals start to have off New Year's off in Japan. I usually get very sick, and sometimes I have to rush to get infusion on New Year's Eve, and that's something what I do on New Year's. But this year, well, from last year, I have been, it was something with the medication first. And I went to a different doctor, and I thought that I would be fine in just a few days. And then he did not give me what I usually take. And then it started to get worse, and worse. And then I ended up with taking antibiotics for 10 days. And I coughed so bad for about a month until mid-January last year. And I didn't have any fever. It was coughing and sore throat first, and then coughing. But it was really bad that I now have to take strongest inhaler that usually people with respiratory problems take. And otherwise, I start to have some problems a few times a week. You know, but it's kind of scary, and I'm kind of getting old. I really have to be careful of my health, I guess. Yeah. Um, um, on the other hand, in the United States, I saw the devastation of the wildfire in California. I feel very sorry for those who lost their houses, and also, yeah, like, it's so bad. But it's not the first time, and I don't know why this fire is just so terrible, but it is indeed terrible. I would just move on, but before I continue to other topics, I have to say that I just screwed up. And the interview with Dr. Omer, Joseph Omer, was proceeded on the 29th, and he gave me more than 1 hour to answer my questions. Oh my gosh, I just cannot believe it, but it disappeared. And I hate some kind of technology, like new technology sometimes, but I will get used to it. And I feel so bad because Dr. Omer took a lot of time to answer my questions, and it just ended like in vain. And I have been listening to other interviews about Syria. He is a specialist on Syria, and of course he has a lot of diplomatic experiences because of his career, but he's fluent in Arabic and some languages. But he agreed to give me an interview on January 26th. So the interview will be available at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And on 22nd, I am not sure if I have, well, I have discussed this, but there is an author that I have been corresponding with. His name is Lindsay Levine. Well, as I introduced him a little, he's a chemical engineer, and he's going to be discussing with me about over hydrogen. It's an interesting topic to me, and I would be open to discussing various topic and learn myself, so that many people can understand something new or just enjoy this podcast. And I hope to enjoy. I hope people do enjoy. this real interview with Dr. Joseph Omer. Yes, it was really bad of myself, and I feel bad. So actually, I will speak a little about UNRWA. I have been openly criticizing UNRWA since actually, I started it a long time ago. Like I said, like 10 years ago, which is true. Then I kind of stopped. It was like, in public, um, there were very limited people who were talking about UNRWA, especially on X, like social media platform, like, and and it's a terrible organization. And then as I said, it was last September when our chief Lazzarini came to Japan and had a press conference about having UNRWA operate in Asia. Well, it's affiliated with all kinds of terrorist organizations, and it is not a humanitarian organization. And I believe that, and I hope that those who understand the situation of October 7th in Japan do understand what UNRWA is about. Is even some of my American friends did not know about UNRWA. Well, they're partly busy, and they're of course pro-Israel people, and some of my friends have friends who have studied in Israel, had a really good time. I was talking about that with her the other day, but but it is a terrible organization. And October 7th happened, and the first thing came to my mind was UNRWA, because they teach children anti-Semitic activities and ideologies, and they have teachers who teach how to use weapons. So it's very strange to me. They, of course, Hamas use children. Hamas often tell children to murder innocent Israelis. And these children are actually terrorists. And they have been used as some kind of materials by Hamas, not by Israelis, but those critics of Israel love to, including news organizations, love to say as if Israel has been murdering innocent children. Well, they even talk about the case when children stabbed an IDF soldier, and he had to neutralize this terrorist, and he was a child. And first, he thought this Palestinian child was just a child, but he stabbed this IDF soldier, and he had to deal with it. And he was in bad condition and was taken to the hospital, but he survived. But how many cases do Israeli people have to deal with this kind of thing? It's awful. And children and women too. And I just, it is terrible to let them do this. And I don't think funding UNRWA contribute to any peace or providing aids. Like UNRWA is not providing aids to majority of Palestinians in reality. Only 14%. And I hope that Japanese people learn that eventually what's going on. And to me, October 7th, that was horrible. That was horrible thing happening. Just that happened in Israel. And the instance I heard, as I said, that was about UNRWA and this horrible thing that ISIS was doing in Syria. I just started to remember some of the worst terrorists that were operating actively in Syria for a long time. And that was awful thing that I had to remember, but that was something that I started to think that Israeli people had to deal with at the same time. The level of the heinousness, evilness, same. And moving to ICC, I am pleased, actually, that ICC is going to be sanctioned. It has to be sanctioned. It's totally political to issue arrest warrants against Prime Minister Netanyahu and former General Gallant. It is totally injustice for me. And there was this incident that IDF soldiers were President Lula insinuated that he has intentions to investigate a war crime that was committed in Gaza. You know what? He's the president of Brazil, and he's going to investigate the crime that, in the first place, he cannot define what crime the IDF soldier committed, basically, and he cannot determine whether it was true or not. And ultimately, it's not because whether it's true or not, but it was a request from political organization, like activists, who issued a lot of pages of hatefulness that President Lula decided to investigate. And I was appalled because it is very much strange, and I don't think, you know what, nobody thinks he's going after a war crime, and it's really awful. And it's just, I don't know what to say on this, but you know what? He decided not to. Of course, he would not. I mean, he would not be able to prosecute him. Of course not, because it's illegal to do it in civilized society. I said, well, I don't want to say this in English, but, well, I guess a lot of people know already and have been talking. I have been speaking about this on social media, but the Japanese politics right now is a disaster. Okay? It's the United States that is the ally of Japan. It's not China. Okay? PRC is not the ally. Or North Korea, which is firing cruise missiles against Japan like crazy. And they say it's legal. It's illegal, of course. And I mean, it's China as well fired several missiles a few years back, and at least one fell inside EEZ. Like, it's not like off the shore, but it's off the shore of Japan. Even though it did not fall in the territory of Japan, the Japanese citizens have been detained and arrested for espionage by the Chinese authority. And it's not just that. There are this Chinese governmental body, which is a Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Japan, is not acting like the foreign branch of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China. It is not. And a lot of people have seen what happened to Hong Kongers, like those people who were arrested. So many people were arrested, detained, and what is China doing to Uyghur? Oh, it is horrible. It's not so different from what it's a different kind of torture, but North Korea is doing this kind of torture to their own people. And it's awful what China is doing to people of minority, And I hope that majority of the Chinese people do understand what the government is doing. And you know what? Japan and China are not so far, and that's why we always have diplomatic issues, of course, and it's not just that. They come up with historical things and over and over and over. And even though Japan did resolve the issues, they start digging up the same thing over the same topic. And China is like blaming Japan for formerly colonizing. Like China is trying to colonize everywhere right now. They made up like an island out of nowhere and near the hill, or they illegally enter the Japanese territory daily. It's I just do not understand why this administration, this particular administration, Ishiba administration, is is not. We have to be a hardliner right now against China for being so aggressive. And now he's like appeasing, like if we pat them, they're going to be okay. They're not going to be okay. And even though we do not want the time, there is a time Xi Jinping is seeking. Oh, it was 2025 by ISW. Well, I hope it's not 2025. Then what we can try is try to make that not happen. And then the only solution is to have a strong alliance with the United States. And we cannot forget about it. And what this ICC judge, Akane Tomoko, said was unacceptable. Like, the United States is in the way for ICC to judge Russia. Well, I would say, what can ICC do against Russia in reality? She is like, what? She wants to become some kind of power? Well, against the State Department? I'm sorry. She is nothing. Yeah, Karim Khan, I hope he is totally just wiped out, and that's it. And I'm really pleased that many congressmen are voting for sanctions against ICC. And there is a reason for it, for me, myself too. Israel is not a country of war crimes. And how come a country which has so many victims, and there are soldiers fighting in Gaza? I mean, if there are no terrorists, why do they have to fight in Gaza? And why are there casualties among IDF? Because there are terrorists. And not all the people are terrorists. Well, look, there are hostages from Rafah. Well, hostages found in Rafah, which many people told not to go into. Of course, of course Hamas would move all the hostages to Rafah, and then they will stay fine as well. And they will not return the hostages for months. Israel desperately wants the hostages back. In any means, diplomatically, really in any means. And I hope soon the hostages come back to Israel. It's very sad that it's not all the hostages who are alive, but I hope they come back to their family. And it's not the end of the world to Israeli people, and I hope that Israeli people feel that they are cared by people. I just I feel very terrible for a particular reason. I don't want to talk about the names of the hostages for reasons, and I would like to refrain from doing it because I really pray that everyone comes back, really. The other day, by the way, this is a story that I always care. I have always cared since my childhood, and it never came off my mind. You know, Anna Frank, she is everybody's girl, you know. She is the only person who survived in her family was her father, and her diary was known to the world. But then I read about her story, and I read about her when I was little. I read about her growing up. I read her diary in Japanese and English. And what makes me sad is that she did not survive. And is not in this world. Well, I am pleased to read her diary, but it's a very sad story at the same time. And I really cannot accept people who say it's about the past and we can forget about Jewish people, what Jewish people went through. It's not something that we cannot forget about. And what I actually read was about Anne Frank. Well, I know how she passed away, and I felt so bad for what happened to her. You know, I thought maybe a few months, you know, she could have survived. But the other day I read about her friend's memory of her, actually. Her encounter with Anna Frank. She was her friend, but not very close. But that story of Anna Frank was shocking in any sense. It was about, how Anna Frank was before she passed away, but it was her medical condition seemed to be really, really bad. And sometimes you can't get to the conclusion because you cannot fully know the facts, but it's not impossible to go after years and years and years. I believe that way. Like, maybe I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I can search for the answer for decades over the same thing. Well, it was about Anna Frank, and I hope that some people really, anti-Semitic people, change their attitudes towards the current Israeli people. Really, I do. Well, it has been a while since I did a podcast. If you go to my homepage, there is a page for donation. It's in about Hannah Klein. Sorry, Hannah K is my old pseudonym. It's Hannah Klein's page, and any amount is appreciated. But I would there's a lot of plan not for myself, but there are some activities that I do for the podcast and others, and also to write books. So any amount of contribution is appreciated, and I hope that I am able to continue the podcast more frequently from now on. Good night, and please stay safe from the snow or the wildfire. It's terrible. I'm really sorry.